Hi, my name is Juan, and welcome to The Couch, a podcast where real therapists talk about real things. Please remember that we are therapists, but we are not your therapists, and this podcast is intended for educational purposes only.
So, my friends, I think this is a timely episode. I've noticed this week, and just as a side note, I'm stationed out of the good North Carolina, Greensboro. Right now, we're getting hit with our version of snow. If you're from the up north, you're probably looking at us and going, what? 1 to 2 to 3 inches? That's not snow. But hey, for us, it's snow. And during times like this, I think this really interesting and impactful change takes place. And it's being at home, right? Being at home for long periods of time. And what can take place is depression can start to kind of just get stirred and really increase over time. I've had different patients during this past couple of weeks share with me a reminder like, hey, this kind of feels like COVID times where we would be at home. And I thought, let's do an episode surrounding this topic, depression and being at home too long, why it hits hard, right? Why it really hits you like a Mike Tyson punch, and then what we can do. A lot of people don't realize this until they're in it, right? They're in the thick of it. They're at home, day 1, day 2. And it's like this really quiet trigger of depression. I often find that it's not a dramatic depression. Not a depression where someone starts to, let's say, cry and then you see it, right? It's this really sneaky level of depression. I'm talking about that heavy, flat, unmotivated, perhaps even blur feeling that kind of just all takes place. Some individuals may notice that their sleep is off during this time. You're at home too long. Your energy gets off too. I know for me, my energy will start to just drop, and I'm like, "What is going on here?" And you don't feel quite like yourself anymore. So what can we do? How do we address this? There's a magic way to make the snow go away and the temperature to turn to like 70s. That'd be awesome. Humans are wired a certain way, right? Humans are not wired for prolonged isolation. Humans are not wired for a lack of movement. And I even say that even if we are introverted, to some degree, we got to move, right? Movement gives you life. A baby comes into the world and right away it's wiggling and it's crying. It's movement. And to the last days that we walk or move through this earth, right? You have some sort of movement. And it could be that maybe you have this elderly individual in the nursing home and they are in there, but what are they in there doing? They're in there doing some sort of movement. That's where we really want to place importance on that aspect of movement. Clinically, mental health relies on rhythm. Right? The brain uses it through routine, movement, social engagements, novelty. And when that movement disappears, right, that rhythm, we think about, what happens? Well, there's got to be an impact on circadian rhythm. There's got to be an impact on dopamine levels. There's got to be an impact on motivation, time perception. My friends, when each day, right, when every day feels the same, your brain starts producing the chemicals that we need, the chemicals that give us energy, purpose, and that forward momentum to keep going. So here we have those key elements, right? Dopamine, motivation, time perception, circadian rhythm, all of them become impacted. Depression, as I mentioned before, it shows up in this subtle way. The kind of depression that doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't say, hey, I'm here. It doesn't do that. It doesn't say, hey, I'm here. The signs that we may notice slowly, quietly, you start to sleep a bit too much or less. You feel irritable. Your brain is like this fog. Your interest starts to just go down, 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 down. You notice that you're scrolling like crazy. You're scrolling on the phone, on watching TV longer than you were. You begin to avoid basic chores and basic tasks. You feel numb, emotionally numb. My friends, depression often looks like a withdrawal. Not necessarily a deep level of sadness in this case, but a withdrawal from the things that you were doing. And then it could be tied to remote work, right? So here where I'm at in Greensboro, we got snow on the ground, schools are canceled, and it's an impact, right? As a parent, I can tell you it's an impact. I feel a level of burnout. I love my kids, and I'm tired. Caregivers, right? Maybe you're taking care of a parent. Tiring, can't get out in the community. It's that weather confinement. One of the most overlooked parts of depression is identity loss. And perhaps you were like, what? I wasn't thinking about identity loss. Well, I want you to think about this. Work, school, running errands, social interaction, all those things, what do they give us? They give us structure, they give us meaning, they give us feedback, right? Going to work, there's your identity in there. Going to school, there's your identity in there. Social engagements, taking care of errands, all of those have to do with identity. Well, when you're stuck at home, those roles, they blur, they become far away. Days feel pointless. Accomplishments drop because we're not doing those things. When there's no external structure, what is going to fill the gap, right? I can't do any of those things. So what fills the gap? Well, depression's right there saying, hey, I can fill the gap. Depression, it thrives, right? Like the weeds behind my house, they thrive back there somehow. Depression thrives in environments with low stimulation and low accountability. Keep that in mind. One of the biggest mistakes I notice that we make is waiting to feel. What are you waiting for? I'm waiting to feel motivated. And then I'll do the things I got to do. Well, what if I told you that depression suppresses motivation? What if I told you that action comes before motivation? What if I told you that small movement, yes, small ones, little ones, they restart the system? Pause here and think about this. Motivation is a result of motivation, not a cause of it. And let that propel you forward. Small movements, my friend. So what actually helps when you're stuck? There's a few things that help. Create artificial structure, right? Interesting word that I threw to you, artificial structure. So, when you think about non-artificial structure, we'll say, that could be that you say, well, I got to go to work. I got to be there at 8 a.m. Well, that is, as we will say, legit structure. Artificial could be that you don't got to go to work the next day because maybe it's a snow day or something. Same wake up time. Don't change the wake up time. Same start time, same end time. Even the clothes that you wear. Find clothes that make you feel like you're going to be productive that day. I'll speak with different individuals and they'll tell me, they'll go, whenever it's a remote day or during COVID, I noticed that I would get up and I put PJs on. And then I would say, well, just, I want you to think about, how do you feel when you put PJs on during the day? And how do you feel when you put your work clothes on during the day? And then they would share different things with me. They would say, well, I feel less productive. I feel like with my PJs, it's like I wasn't really going anywhere. Right? And this is not a judgment on, you only got to wear this, or you got to wear PJs, or you got to wear, I'm sorry, not PJs. You're listening, you're like, yes, PJs. No, you got to wear work clothes. It's not a judgment on the clothing. It's more about thinking what goes behind that. What does a person feel? And I think for many individuals, they may say, well, when I'm wearing my work clothes, I do feel like I'm going to go do something productive. Your brain needs signals. And that's all it is. When you think about what you're wearing, it's signals that you're getting. You put on the work clothes, the brain gets a signal of, oh, time to go do something work related. Strategy number 2, get your body involved, even a little. You don't have to go run a marathon. You don't have to do 1,000 push-ups. Stretch. Go for a short walk. Do some standing routines. Do some light strength training. Remember. Depression lives where? Depression lives in that stillness. It's like when you go walking and you see that pond, it's a small little one, and the water is just really still. And likely it doesn't look very pretty. Probably mosquitoes and grime at the top, right? You could say, well, depression probably lives in there. And then you go to a river. I love the mountains here near where I live. I'm in the Greensboro area. Many times I found that I would just, pop in the car and then we're heading up to Boone. And then I'll find some sort of moving water there. And movement, what does it do? Well, movement disrupts depression. Strategy number 3, limit passive coping. You could do this by limiting that endless scrolling, limit the binge watching, whether it's on YouTube or wherever you watch, limit napping to escape what's happening. Now, I use the word limit passive coping, right? Because these can provide a coping mechanism to you, a soothing effect. These, however, they soothe temporarily, and often they'll deepen depression, not right away, but over time. Take for instance that scrolling on your phone, right? You scroll over and over, you get these dopamine highs, and then you're going, someone takes it away, you get grumpy, you become disconnected from the world. Over time, it starts to build not only a depression, maybe some anxiousness, a difficulty with regulating your emotions. And then the last one, change one environment cue. So depression narrows your world. I like to think about that as like a tunnel. When I'm in the depressed mode, it's like this tunnel versus having this really wide lens of life. So then what I can do is I can go to a room and say, you know what, I'm going to change the lighting in this room, give it a different feel. If I sit inside most of the time and, here it's got snow on the ground, so it's cold, I put my jacket on, I'm going to go sit outside for a little bit. If the blinds are closed, you know what, I'm going to go open up these blinds. If I normally do my work in that room, I'm going to move over and do it in that room. Those changes in environment, they widen our ability to address what's happening. Being at home for too long doesn't make you weak, right? It makes us human. We go through the ups and downs of life, right? It's part of that equation, highs and lows. Depression often shows up quietly in this case, especially, when the things that you were doing, right? I was doing, you were doing, all of us, our routines, our engagements, heck, even our errands, when they start to go away, we can't do them because we're stuck at home. Well, that disappearance impacts your identity. That then starts to slowly chip away at that depression, add to the depression, excuse me. Now, the good news in this is that you have a lot of control, my friend. Those small changes, they really matter. If this episode in any way was helpful, if it resonated, I'd love if you would share it with someone who's been maybe stuck at home, maybe in a struggle, maybe could use a pick-me-up. Leave us a review. Tell us what we're doing a good job in, and I'll keep rocking that way. If you're looking for support and you're in the Greensboro area, North Carolina also, Santos Counseling, we offer therapy in person and remote. In person, anyone that can make that drive to the Greensboro area, and then remote to anybody in North Carolina. All right, my friends, take care. I will see you in the next episode.